Time to round up one of our big stories from the week. A Houston area man arrested for not paying a 3-decade-old student loan. The news had people around the country fearing they'd be the next. But there is much more to Paul Akers' story. He told Fox 26 he was arrested at his home last week for a $1,500 federal loan he took out way back in 1987. Akers said 7 deputy U.S. Marshals showed up at his home with guns and took him to federal court, where he had to sign a payment plan for the school loan. Fox 26 investigated, and it turns out Akers was actually arrested for failing to appear in court. The news, however, still generating a lot of buzz. Can someone simply be arrested for defaulting on a student loan? That's our topic this half hour. We want to hear from you on our Fox 26 Facebook page, as well as Twitter. Use the hashtag Fox26forlife. Joining us live in the newsroom is our panel, led by our Fox 26 senior legal analyst, Chris Tridico. We also have our news analyst, Mustafa Tamiz, who's often involved with strategizing for Democratic candidates, and public policy analyst, Jackie Bally, who is often involved with strategizing for Republican candidates. Good morning to y'all.
Good morning.
All right, so when this news broke, the headline took off like crazy across the country, and everyone did fear that this would be happening to them next. But that's not quite the case, right, Chris?
Well, look, we do not put people in prison because they can't afford to pay their debts. We don't do that in the United States. You can get arrested if you fail to comply with a court order. A federally insured student loan does not go away. You can't ignore it. If you feel like you didn't get the education you deserved, you still have to pay the debt. It doesn't go away. You can't file bankruptcy and make it go away, so you still have to pay the debt. If you default on that note, a federal court will someday someone will file suit against you in federal court, and you will get cited to appear in federal court. If you ignore that, the federal marshal is going to come and give you a ride. If you ignore that, they will arrest you for that. So this gentleman was arrested not because he didn't pay his debt. He was arrested because he ignored an order by a United States district judge. And when you do that, they will slap handcuffs on you and give you a ride to court. The key phrase that you said there, Sally, was he was taken to court and signed a payment plan. That's all they wanted him to do. We want you to pay back the money you promised to pay us. That's all they tried to do since 1987, Mustafa.
$1.2 trillion is the debt on student loan out there. Over 7 million people have defaulted. This is an epidemic and a crisis.
We could have fought a war for that.
Well, and Jackie will talk about some candidates that probably would want to. But look, this is a real problem. And this case, and I know you're saying that he didn't show up for court, but there's 7 million people that are in default. Many of them might not even know that someone's coming after them, because people move, people change their address. All of a sudden you have 7 U.S. Marshals knocking on your door because you try to take an education.
Come on, Mustafa. If I take out a loan, I know I took out a loan.
But this is, I mean, look, 1.2 trillion. There are a lot of Americans that are in this position. They're walking out of college with, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 in debt. And this is a problem, and we need to fix the root cause of this problem.
Well, this gentleman knew that they were coming after him because they called him.
He had several notices,
right?
Multiple notices.
Right. All we have to do is elect Bernie Sanders, and then this won't be a problem. He said tuition for free.
It didn't take 30 seconds.
Free tuition for everybody.
The problem I have with the federal student loan program is these fly-by-night schools that qualify to give these loans that really don't give an education. They promise that you're going to teach you something. They borrow the money. The school gets the money. The kids can't get a job based on this education. Now they're stuck paying back all this money. They can't get a job.
But we have to take responsibility for ourselves. And we know if we're signing a commitment to pay back an institution for dollars, that's a commitment that we've made. I mean, I had academic and music scholarships, and I also worked a job. So some of these students, how about working a couple of jobs and trying to work yourself through school? It's a noble idea.
All right, let me go to Sally. She's monitoring our social media.
This got a lot of likes and comments and shares on our Facebook page this week. Well, let's check out a comment from Mercedes first there in the middle. She's upset about this. She says, hey, they're not arresting men or women who have never paid child support in their lives. Are you kidding me with this? And then Candace in the middle says, I don't understand why people are upset by this. He owes the money from 1987. I'm tired of people not paying their debts and getting away with it. And then Ben just commented on your Facebook page, Chris, asking you a question about, wouldn't the debt show up on credit reports?
Well, and yes, it does show up on your credit report, but I doubt very seriously that his credit score is the first thing he's worried about. But let's talk about the first one said, what about we're not arresting people for child support? We do arrest people for child support, and it's the same thing. You're held in contempt of court, and you can go to jail for up to 6 months for that. But that's really not the same issue. And I want you to respond to what I was asking Jackie about. These fly-by-night schools that don't do anything, they suck these kids in. They don't know they're not going to get an education, and then they owe all this money they can't pay back.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I think sometimes we want to hold everybody to the standard that, these are 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds that get involved with these colleges that have, highly paid recruiters that bring them in, get them to sign these forms. They don't even understand exactly what's happening. But that's one problem. But the other problem is the cost of tuition. Cost of tuition has gone up significantly. And now, if you want to put a child in in-state tuition, it's almost $20,000, $25,000. This is unrealistic in the future. So if you've got
not if you like Bernie Sanders.
Yes, that's
well,
right.
I mean, look, I think that's why he's doing well, because he's talking about a problem that some people might just
and actually some Republicans have been talking about reducing. To be fair, Republicans have been talking about
and if you
Rick Perry.
you go to some private schools like Princeton, because their tuition is so high and they have so much
Well, they have billions
in their
of dollars in
entitlements,
endowment.
they're talking about actually giving a whole class for free.
Right.
So you do have some universities that have a lot of money in their endowment. But again, it's up to the person when you're signing that document to take responsibility for your own action.